FragPunk Season 2 is now here, which means there are some changes to the characters, and there has now been a little while since the game has released and since the last tier list that I made, so there is a lot of changes that need to be made. So we're going to be going through the best and the worst Lancers in FragPunk, and I'm going to be putting them onto a tier list, so if you guys enjoyed the video, then let me know by leaving a like and subscribing. And with that being said, let's get into the tier list. So first off, we're going to start with Broker, and Broker is all about explosives, and he has a smoke as well, but he has his rocket launcher for his main ability, which is really good on a direct hit. It will almost kill as long as it is at least close to them, but if you get a direct hit, then it will kill. And it has a little bit of a knockback on it as well. And then his smoke, he has a pretty good smoke. He throws it in a really straight line, and then a smoke is created along the path that he made. And then his third ability is a bunch of little landmines, which these are all right. There's not a whole lot of landmines in it, but they do quite a bit of damage. They did about half his HP, and he was just barely around it. But even if these don't hit people, it is good because enemies will have to shoot them to get rid of them. So it's good to reveal enemies' locations. So Broker's pretty good, but I wouldn't say he's one of the best in the game. So with that being said, we'll put him in A tier. Next up is Nitro. Nitro is all about her intel with her kit. So her first move is Chug Chug, who is this robot, and Chug Chug is really good for getting rid of enemy gadgets or traps, but it can also hit enemies doing about 20 damage a hit. So it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but if enemies are low, then you could get some kills with this. But it's also good to just use Chug Chug as a camera without exposing Nitro. So you can look around corners like this, or if I wanted to look around this corner, I could see like this without exposing myself, and I can find where enemies are at. And then her second ability is this wall, which can help her get to places that no one else can. There's some places on some maps that have some good wall spots for her, so she can get good high ground on enemies, or also use it as cover to hide behind if she wants to. And then her third ability is Pew Pews, which these are really good for gathering intel. You throw these above doorways and archways, and then it will start hitting the enemies as they walk by or in the line of sight of them. And they don't do crazy amounts of damage, but they are really good for getting the intel, and it forces the enemies to look around to destroy the Pew Pews. Nitro is and always has been one of the best Lancers in the game, so with that being said, we'll put her in S tier. Next up, we're going to look at Hollow Point, and Hollow Point is the sniper of the game. So her main ability is her railgun sniper, which as it charges up, it'll do more damage, and it does collide through people. So even if you hit a body shot, it'll do almost one-tapping them from a far range, but as long as they're close enough, it will one-tap to the body. Her railgun has always been one of the best abilities in the game. And then she has a smoke screen as well, and the smoke screen is really good for forcing enemies back, or for her and her team to be able to move forward on the map. And then her third ability is alright. It's just a sensor, so she can place it on her flank or just anywhere on the map, and if enemies walk by it, it will reveal them if they get caught by it. So Hollow Point is also one of the best characters in the game, so with that being said, we're gonna put her in S tier. Next up, we're gonna look at Jaguar. Jaguar is all about traps, and he has a little bit of intel as well. So he has this pretty good shock trap. If enemies walk into it, they do so much damage. So this trap is one of the highest damage dealing traps in the game, and it is a really solid trap. And then next, his two abilities next both combo together, which brings him down a little bit in ranks because you can't really use one without the other, at least as efficiently. So now he has this third ability, which will tell him if there's any enemies in front of him or in the direction that he is looking. So it is a really good ability. However, he won't know exactly where the enemies are at. And then his second ability is this smoke cage. So if he captures enemies inside the smoke cage, it will reveal them. So that's why you have to pair them together, because otherwise, if you don't pair his third ability with the smoke, then you will not be able to see the enemies through the smoke. So Jaguar is alright, but he's not one of the best for working with his team, unless you have a good Jaguar that is giving your team callouts. So Jaguar, you could argue him to be an A tier if you have a good enough of a Jaguar player on your team, but for Jaguar as he is, we're gonna have to put him in B tier. Next, we're gonna look at Chum, which Chum is an interesting character. He has his little guy right here, Chomper, which you can feed him bait explosives, which it's good to place. So if we have the bomb planted right here. You can go ahead and throw him down, and he will sit here, and he will go after enemies that get too close. Or you could also feed him a smoking bait, and then you can throw him as a smoke, and you can aim to move him wherever you want him to go. So you can look around, but you can also follow behind him. This smoke can go as far as you want it to go, and then if you just let go of your shooting button, he will stop, and the smoke can cover as far as you would like it to go. And then he has this tripwire trap, so you can throw it low on a wall. If enemies walk past it, they will get blown up by the tripwire. And then his third ability is a smoke bomb. So he has kind of two smokes to his ability, but Chomper has a lot of versatility to him. So if you're able to use him well enough, he can be really good, but there's not a whole lot of intel with Chum or a lot of kill ability with his traps. So Chum could be A tier in certain situations, but we'll also have to put Chum in B tier for now. Next, we're going to look at Corona, which Corona's first ability is a dash, which he can use to dash across doorways if he needs to, but it works really well paired with his third ability, which makes him into a human flashbang. So you could just use this and then walk around the corner, and then it would flash any of the enemies that are in his view. But if you pair this with the dash, then you could do this and then dash out into the open at the enemies, and they will not know anywhere of where Corona is at. And then his second ability is this trap, which doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but if he is inside of it, then he takes reduced amounts of damage from enemies. So this is really good, not only to trap enemies, but to throw on himself so that he takes less damage. So Corona is really good. So Corona is a really solid Lancer. So for that, we're going to put him in A tier. Next, we're going to look at Serket, which Serket is all right. She's pretty much a little worse version of a Kismet. She has a teleport ability, but it moves really slow, and enemies can see her and can destroy this little ball that she turns into. So it's not the best teleport, but you can just gather little bits of intel with it without needing to teleport. But then she has a smoke, which is like a tornado, and then you can use this and follow it up with her teleport, which could make her teleport a little more useful, but it's still hard to follow up with the tornado. But a tornado overall is pretty good to follow up and use to get forward on the map, so it is all right. And then her third ability is this trap, which she can throw it down and it'll pull enemies in, which can help her get some free kills. So Serket is pretty good, but I think Kismet just does what Serket does better, so Serket will have to go into B tier. Next, we're going to look at Pathogen, which Pathogen got a slight nerf to her walls in the new season. They lost 100 health on them, but since she is the only healer in the game, that automatically makes her one of the best characters in the game. And her walls are still really solid. They only went from 500 health down to 400, so it's not that big of a loss. The walls are really good for getting plants down or for making protection for her to heal her or her teammates, so they are still really good. And then her poison trap is a really solid damage dealing trap and is also one of the best in the game. So Pathogen is still one of the best in the game, and I don't see that changing at all as long as she stays the only healer in the game, but I don't think that will stay that way for long. So with that being said, we'll have to put Pathogen in S tier. Next, we're going to look at Zephyr, and she is one of the most interesting characters in the game because she can go invisible. But when you go invisible, if you're looking at an enemy, the enemies are notified that you can see them. So enemies just typically start just spraying around until they figure out where Zephyr is at. And if you're a Zephyr and you are getting hit, then you do get revealed to the enemies, which makes it even worse on her. But if you pair her invisibility with her second ability, then as long as she's in this zone, this meter does not go down. But her third ability is where she really comes in clutch, because her third ability makes for a portal. So as long as she has that portal down, she can go invisible and then go around, kill an enemy, and then she can go ahead and teleport back before the enemies have any time to react. So a little tip if you're going to be playing Zephyr, if you know where enemies are at, I would just look straight down or kind of try to keep them just in your peripherals so that you don't let the enemies get notified that you can see them. And then once you get behind them, you can still just knife them and get the kills like you would normally. But Zephyr just has a lot of easy counterability to her. If she wasn't so easy to be countered, then she'd be a lot better. But with that being said, we're gonna have to put her in C tier. Next, we're gonna look at Spider, who was one of the best in the game whenever the game first dropped. However, they nerfed his teleporters to make it to where teammates have to wait a certain amount of time before they can hit the teleporter. So Spider can hit the teleporter all he wants, but his teammates I think have to wait like 7 or 8 seconds before each of them can hit it. So that really makes it a little worse. His second ability was one of the best in the game. It pulls enemies in and then teleports them to wherever he threw him. So at first, it'll pull enemies to him, and if he has his melee ready, then he can go ahead and dash into enemies as soon as they get pulled for a free kill. And then he has a blind trap, which has a decent radius on it, but if enemies get caught in it, they get blinded for a brief duration of time. So it is a decent trap as long as you are around to get the kill whenever the trap is activated. But Spider is still really good, especially with his Spirited Away ability, really doing most of the work. And then the teleporter allowing for him and his teammates to make quick rotations around the map. So with that being said, Spider is going to be an A tier. Next, we're going to look at Kismet, which Kismet does what Circuit does, but better. Except she doesn't have a smoke, but she does have a reveal, which has a big radius and reveals all the enemies that are caught inside of it, and is one of the best reveals in the game. And then her second ability is a grenade, which as long as the enemies are inside of the radius, they'll take 100 damage, which is 2/3 of their health. And then this is what she does better than Circuit, which is her teleport. So it lasts less time, but she does move a lot quicker. But enemies cannot see her, they can only hear her, and she cannot see where enemies are at. But as long as you have a general idea of where enemies are at whenever you teleport, you can get behind them or even get a good angle on them to where you can get some free kills. So with that being said, Kismet is going to be an A tier. Next, we're going to look at Axen, who got a little bit of a nerf with his sticky grenades and this newest update. So instead of having 12 grenade uses, he only has 8, which is not that big of a deal for him. But his grenades are really good, especially when paired up with other cards. His first ability is his guitar, which when he has the guitar out, it'll gives him the ability to slide, which is the only Lancer that has ability to slide. And then if you pair his third ability, then that makes it to where he cannot be flashed, which is kind of weak if the enemies aren't using flashes. But if you're going against a flash heavy team, then that makes Axen really good. But due to his shotgun guitar being so broken, he is automatically a really solid choice of a Lancer. So with that being said, we're going to put Axen in A tier. Next, we're going to look at Sonar, who is the strict intel Lancer of the game. So her first ability is a Sonar pillar, which will reveal any enemies moving inside of this radius. So it's really weak if enemies are moving before the beam goes, and then if they stand still whenever that ray goes, then it will not reveal them. And then her second ability, it will reveal enemies through walls, but it doesn't have that big of a radius, so it's kind of hard to hit. And then her third ability used to be a lot better, but it makes her footsteps go silent. It only lasts for about 2 or 3 seconds now. I'm pretty sure it used to last like 5 or 6 seconds, so it used to be a lot better, but they kind of just nerfed her to the ground. So she is not the best option for Lancers right now, but she can still be very solid if used correctly. So with that being said, we're gonna have to put Sonar in B tier. Second to last, we're going to be looking at Dex, who is one of the newest Lancers added to the game with the last update. But his first ability is a little teleporter thing. So this little lizard guy, you can see that his health is at 10 HP. So that means if he gets shot by an enemy, then that means he'll teleport back to where this little guy is at. His second ability is the same as his first ability, but these are traps. So these are fake ones. If enemies hit these fake ones, then they will get flashed for a brief duration of time. And then his third ability is like an armor shield, which makes it to where he can tank 1 shot of damage as long as it is up to 30 damage. So if he gets shot by an SMG from far range, then this shield will absolutely tank all of the damage. But an assault rifle headshot damage, he'll just reduce the amount of damage from an assault rifle headshot or a DMR headshot, but it will not fully stop it. But just having that reliability of having shield so that you can take a shot is really good. And having pretty much a second life by having the little teleporter here is also really solid for Dex to be able to gather intel and have a second life in case he loses a first fight. So with that being said, Dex is going to be 100% an A tier. And lastly, we're going to look at the newest Lancer, which is Hurricane. Hurricane is an extremely solid Lancer, probably going to be one of the best in the game once we actually get to see him in play. But his smoke is one of the best in the game because he can fully control where it goes from how far away he wants it to be or how close he wants it to be. So if there's like doorways or clear paths that you want to block off, then you can go ahead and push the smoke wherever you want it to be. and then you can block off the enemy's view with this huge cyclone storm. And then his second ability is a flashbang, where it will bounce off wherever it hits and it will flash instantly, and then a few seconds later it will flash again. So you want to make sure that you look away so you don't get flashed, but it will flash every single enemy that can see it. And if you throw it down near you or like off a wall, you got to make sure you turn away quick, otherwise you will get flashed. And you can hopefully hold off and just briefly get flashed instead of a complete flash if you turn around quickly enough whenever you hit the flash. And then his third ability gives him a little bit of a speed boost and also makes it to where enemies nearby take even more damage compared to what they normally would. So he gets a little bit of the speed and is able to become an absolute brute and just take down enemies a lot quicker for that brief duration of time. So Hurricane is really solid, and we're gonna put him in A tier. That is it for the tier list. If you enjoyed and found this tier list useful, then let me know by leaving a like and subscribing, and comment down below what other FragPunk videos you would like to see. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.